Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Q&A video here. So this is my Q&A for The Walking Dead Dead City episode 1, and also I guess kind of episode 2 as well, because there's some questions here regarding what could happen in episode 2 and I guess other episodes or other shows and whatnot with The Walking Dead. So yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, but let's get into the very first question here. So Q&A, what's your favorite aspect that might be explored here? I think the alternative power generation in a place still very much ruled by the dead is a pretty cool thing. I mean, yeah, I guess that's one of the things that is kind of interesting right now is just like what New Babylon is going to, I guess, necessarily be here, because it feels like New Babylon could be the next big group here, like the CRM, right? Like, obviously, they don't have as much power, but it's more of like what their goal is here and what could happen if they actually do take over New York City, because of a lot of what would happen afterwards, like the CRM finding out about it. There could be other communities out there, organizations out there, that find out about what they're doing for power and everything. Like, it's the whole methane, being created by using walkers as a resource and sort of what they figured out there. And I think that's why the Croat is a very, very special character, because he was a former scientist right before all of this. So like prior to the apocalypse. So I think that aspect to it here is interesting, and I do find Dead City really fascinating in that way, that they're introducing a lot of stuff here that I think could actually really affect the future. Obviously, a lot of this is going to play out on the show. We're going to see the story actually play out on the show. We'll see where this goes overall. But there's just things here that obviously are not going to go away like that fast in like a season 3 or 4, right? Like, it's going to be around for a while. And I think this is where, I don't know where this goes. New Babylon could be completely wiped out, but it's just what they're doing overall. And if they actually rule New York City and restore power everywhere, like, what does that mean for the future? And just, I guess for like, Rick's return and a lot of that. Like, I just really am curious on what that overall means for The Walking Dead, because it's a pretty big storyline. Like, imagine if this was happening on The Walking Dead, we'd all be like, wait, what? Like, you're trying to actually power on the city. And I mean, we are seeing them do that, but they're trying to do it a lot more and obviously take over an entire city, right? So there's that, and you have a group trying to take over what you're sort of building or creating there. So there's a lot to look forward here with Dead City, and I'm really honestly excited for episode 2. Q&A, do you think Perlie is going to end up killing Charlie Bird and backstab the other marshals? I really am curious on Perlie Armstrong's, I guess, story this season. I always called him the Marshal, but I guess I can't really call him that anymore because he's a colonel now, right? And there's other marshals there, but in season 1, he was like the only marshal that we really saw. So I think that is something that could happen for sure. I could see Perlie Armstrong actually, I guess, because he's really in a tricky situation when Charlie Bird and I guess Marshal Lucia, I believe is what her name is. Like, once they find out that Negan is still alive, that's going to cause a lot of problems for Perlie. And so I could see a situation where maybe he literally joins Bruegel, right? Like, I could see that happening, or maybe he does kill them. I really feel like it's going to be one of those things where maybe Charlie Bird or Marshal Lucia actually kill Perlie. Like, I think that in terms of him getting out of the situation, like, it's almost a little bit too predictable. So I feel like going the other way, where it's like, yeah, he's not going to be able to get away from New Babylon, I think almost makes New Babylon a little bit more terrifying as villains, right? But it depends on the direction of the season. So I think depending on where all that goes there, I think that I like for sure they're going to find out, and we'll see where that goes. But I could see Perlie Armstrong dying this season for sure. I think that there's going to be some deaths, obviously, this season at some point here. And he could be one of the characters that does die, because I think that Charlie Bird and the new Marshal, like, because they were just introduced this season and they seem to be having really important roles this season, like, they could also die as well. Like, obviously, you can just have like a 1-season character, but I just feel like it might go the other way. I don't know. Q&A, how would you feel if they killed off Negan before a Rick Grimes reunion? Well, I guess I wouldn't be that happy about that. Honestly, I think if they did something like that, it would be a really horrible decision, because like, we all want to see that conversation between the two characters, right? And speaking of Rick Grimes, actually, Andrew Lincoln was actually cast in a theater play or whatever today. So it's really interesting because that's happening later on this year. And I just find it fascinating that Andrew Lincoln doesn't do any like bigger roles or anything like that. Like, it's always like theater stuff, or it's like smaller roles and like TV shows, right? Like, he's not really in movies ever. And I just find it kind of insane because he's such a great actor. Like, we've seen him do a lot of stuff on The Walking Dead, but I don't know what it is. It's just really interesting to see that he's never really in movies like ever, right? So yeah, but in terms of, if they ever killed off Negan, I think that, yeah, I'd be very upset about that, because I think that you want to see that reunion happen because of their last scenes together, right? Like, you actually had both characters like talking about like, how the world should go, and they both definitely disagreed. And I would say since that moment, it's been a very long time, but since that moment, I think Rick was right? And I think Negan at this point might agree with Rick. And so I'd be really interested in seeing them talk about a lot of that, all these years later, and just seeing, I guess Rick's reaction to who Negan is at this point, and just all of that. Obviously, there's going to be some drama there. I think that there could be a lot of really fun scenes there where there's sort of like hero versus villain still, right? But I just want to see a scene between the two characters, because we haven't really seen his reaction to, finding out that Rick's alive still. Like, I don't think he really even knows, right? So I think, yeah, I mean, obviously you want to see those two characters, I think, just like talking about whatever. And yeah, killing him off before any sort of reunion with Rick would be very, very frustrating. I actually think that that's something that probably won't ever happen, because everyone's reaction will be like very, very like bad about it, right? Like, everyone's going to be like, what did you just do? Q&A, if the Dama wasn't lying to Negan, do you think he's screaming because he is seeing Annie and Joshua? So that is a really interesting idea. And I was thinking about that actually after episode 1, because I was looking at a lot of the scenes and whatnot from the trailer and everything. And it does kind of seem like, honestly, that Annie and Joshua maybe could be a part of the show. Like, I mean, it's so hard to say because I couldn't picture it. Like, it would be something that, I mean, honestly, it would be cool because it's honestly a connection to like the final season, and like, it makes sense to do something like that, right? But I just wonder in terms of, how they would do that. Like, if it just, I don't know, like, it would be surprising. I would honestly be very surprised to see something like that, especially because later on this season, you do see Negan like having hallucinations about Lucille and whatnot, right? And that was like later on. I think that was around episode 6 or 7, I believe, is what the rumor is right now, is that you're going to see Lucille come back at some point. And I just find it interesting, the whole like Negan, getting married to somebody else, and, like this sort of like connection he still has to Lucille. Like, it just kind of feels like I'd be interested in seeing what happens, but like, because of all those Lucille scenes and everything like that, it's just a little, I don't know, it just feels like it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but I think that, Ginny being there and then Negan reacting to the fact that she is there now and maybe she has to fight the walkers or something like that, like, to me, that makes a lot of sense. But you never know, like, Annie and Joshua could totally just like show up randomly. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Q&A, do you think Annie and Joshua possibly are dead and Negan finds out, causing him to resort to his old ways? That way the Lucille scene could snap him back. Just a thought. Love the channel and content, been following for years. Thank you so much. You know what? I actually like that idea, because we were just talking about that here. So, I mean, like, if Annie and Joshua do come back, like, the one thing about those characters that is just, it's just really, I feel like, frustrating with the show is that if you think about it, they're actually very, very important characters, right? Like, Negan literally has a son and a wife, and like, they never want to acknowledge the characters. And I know that there was some complaints about introducing Annie out of nowhere, because it was like, if you're going to have a big character like Negan, get married and all that, and then he's having a kid and everything, like, you almost want to see a lot of that play out, like how he first meets her, this and that. But like, they did a big time jump and the character was introduced, and it was just like, so much stuff happened. And then like with Dead City, they don't even really want to introduce the character. I just kind of feel like at this point, maybe that is something that happens there, is that in order to make Negan become his old self, maybe you kill off Annie and Joshua, right? And then he finds that out. We see his reaction here, and then that's what makes him, become his old self. And he wrestles a lot with that. And then eventually, the Lucille scene happens towards the end of the season. Like, that is something that would be absolutely insane, I think, for the character as well. Like, that would be shocking, but I just don't know if I see that really happening. Like, again, I would just be shocked to actually see Annie and Joshua on the show, because then you're introducing Joshua, you're introducing him as a character on the show, which I think would be really cool. But like, I don't know, it's just the way the show has handled those characters. I just don't see it happening. But anyways. Q&A, I have a two-part question. Do you think that if the Walking Dead comics went on for like 300 or 400 issues, that the show would never have ended and kept going until they adapted everything to screen? Also, how do you feel about The Last of Us adapting part 2 so far? In my opinion, they are doing a much better job than the game did in certain areas. Love all you do. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Well, I will say in terms of The Last of Us, yeah, they're doing really incredible, I would say. I think that for, like I haven't watched episode 4 yet, so I have no idea. But I think for what the story was in the game and like how much people did not like it, the show is doing it better. So again, I watched episode 3. I liked episode 3 a lot. I don't know how the show's going to continue without Joel, but I think that you can kind of see it there a little bit. And so I'll have to watch episode 4 to see what's going on or whatever. I'm really excited to actually watch it. I don't know why I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, I think The Last of Us Part 2 is doing a great job as of right now. But in terms of your first question, if the Walking Dead comics went on for that long, would the show still be going on? I don't think so. I really feel like the lawsuit with Frank Darabont, and I don't know if it was the lawsuit with, Robert Kirkman and whatnot, but like, I really feel like that's why The Walking Dead ended. They didn't want to keep continuing to pay Frank Darabont and et cetera, right? Like, I think it was just one of those things where it was like, you know what? Let's just end the show here because we can just do spinoffs and have a different storyline, have a different thing going on. And I think that it was definitely the right thing to do, I think, story-wise as well, which I think is very good for AMC. Like, I know a lot of people miss those characters from The Walking Dead. They miss the Commonwealth and whatnot. But after the spinoffs happened, things felt very refreshed. And I think the show needed that a lot. And now there's excitement about bringing everybody back together. Whereas I think, back in season 11, there wasn't a lot of appreciation for all the characters at all. It was just very much like, we've been here for many, many years now. And so now people miss those characters. And I think at some point you could do some sort of, reunion with all of them and do a different show or just whatever, right? So I think no matter what, The Walking Dead was going to end. But in terms of The Walking Dead comics continuing, I would love that. Honestly, I know Robert Kirkman has like hinted at it or talked about it. I think if it's, one of those things where the story is there, he's really excited about doing it and he's really interested in like telling another story that lasts like 10 to 20 years, then he would do a story like that for sure. I could totally see it happening, but I think it's one of those things where you just have to wait and see. Right now they are doing The Walking Dead Deluxe, which is going to be ending in the next couple of years here. So we'll see, in the next couple of years, there could be something there because after this, I don't know what they do for The Walking Dead. So I could totally see them going in a direction like that. Q&A, do you think we get Negan versus Bruegel, maybe not this season, but in season 3, and he Lucille's him? Another question, do you think anyone from New Babylon can be a CRM spy? Love all your content. Ooh, that's actually a really interesting question. So first of all, thank you. And yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that. Like, the thing is, like, Gimple introduced that idea, so there is going to be a spy out there for the CRM at some point. I don't know who. New Babylon makes a lot of sense, though, I think, because of the location and whatnot, right? Like, Beale did say he has spies all over the world, so it could still happen in The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon as well. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, because he said that, we're all going to be like, who's the spy, right? Like, it's going to be something that we're all wondering about, though. I feel like it doesn't really matter necessarily anymore, but it would just be interesting if there was a spy and if there was, like, some sort of other storyline happening for like, a future storyline. But in terms of Negan versus Bruegel, I think we could get that this season and not in season 3. I think that I don't see him dying this season. I think that he'll be around for next season, maybe season 4. I don't know. But like, I think that it's probably going to happen at some point this season. I don't think we got to wait until season 3. I think that by the end of this season here, there's going to be some crazy things that happen where it's like, wait, this character's on this side now, or what's happening here? Like, I think that things aren't going to be as simple as they are right now. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.